Salutations from space, folks. This is your friendly astrolonaut, Gemini Brett of More Than Astrology, and the celestial navigator of the Storytelling podcast. One of my stated devotions to spirit is to help cure the condition I call starvation. So it warms my heart that you are here expressing interest in joining this 19-month journey to participate with the beautiful dance of the Venus synodic cycle. This is one of a few introductory videos that will go into the what, why, when, and how of the thing. I made an introductory video last night, but it was entirely sleepy, so I decided not to post that one and to record a short series of them. So during the daytime, we'll get plane sounds and helicopters and cars and such. We're going to alleviate that somewhat by listening to the beautiful handpan music of a wonderful co-collaborator, Elijah Parker, from his album Prime Gifts, which you can hear in full through links at onedoorland.com and download a copy for your own price. So today we will keep the puer flowing and make this quick and lively. I've selected 3 cups that my beautiful friend Boo created for me, and they are the Sun, the Earth, and Venus. These 3 very important balls in space that made an alignment yesterday, August 15th, 2015 at 12:21 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, called a Venus interior conjunction to the Sun. And we'll go much more into that in the what video, but I first thought it would be best to describe the why. Why are you here? Why should you stick around? Now, it's likely that you're seeing this video because you're a subscriber to my YouTube channel, or perhaps because I added you to the Facebook group, The Sovereign Scepter of the Lioness.
Dude, the Sovereign Scepter of the what? What kind of name is that?
Well, let me explain.
Yeah, I'm sick of men talking about the goddess. I mean, the Scepter of the Lioness? What is this, some kind of porn group?
God, no, I mean...
Yeah, in synodic cycle? Man, what are you even talking about?
Right, well, I'll explain this.
Explain what? And using whose words? I mean, is any of this material even yours anyway?
Yikes. Alright, well, jumping ahead to the why and the who, part of this course is about developing our connection to the Leo mysteries, where Venus aligned to the Sun yesterday in the zodiac, the 24th degree of Leo. And this is about, in many senses, creating a conscious communication with the inner critic to shift it from foe to friend. Because, sometimes the inner critic actually makes some good points. Not that point about, is this a porn group? Not at all. Though we will be journeying through a clearing, reassemblage, and reclaiming of the body's chakra systems or energetic systems, and this does include the sacral chakra. So most likely we will have some guest voices and meditations perhaps from some of the tantric teachers in the community when that time comes along on this schedule. And this schedule is put forth by the paradigm of shamanic astrology, the stock of my starry stew, as visioned forth by Daniel Jamario and Kaylin Castell. So about that inner critic question of, is this my material? Well, some of this will be very original, but a lot of it comes from my teachers, Daniel and Kaylin, from other great astrologers who have taken this Venus synodic work further, like Tammy Brunk and Gary Caton and Adam Gainsberg, and hopefully we can have these several stars on as guests during the course of this thing. We will also have original music and compositions from the most magical Maria Stark and others, and original art and some art that I've found online. So my apologies to artists whose work I'm using to help us dive into these mysteries without crediting them. If this is done, it's because I don't know who you are. So if you see this, please step up and make a note, and I will have it be known. Now, some say Venus, as far as the who is involved, is all about money. And while I find that to be ridiculous, I think it's probably good to go into that a little bit now. This is a sharing from my heart to yours as part of my sacred service and my devotion to realigning myself and to any others who choose as a conduit of the marriage of heaven and earth. These Venus synodic cycles, the Mars synodic cycles, they've in many senses been forgotten by the astrological community because you have to watch the sky to connect to their mysteries. And so many astrologers I know don't do this. They're fantastic at looking down at the chart and these glyphs that represent the planets, but I feel many of them have forgotten that the planets themselves are very conscious beings who are participating with our evolutionary unfoldment here in the Earth game. So part of this journey that we will take together is to not only demystify astrology, but to honor astronomy, cosmology, mythology, psychology, philosophy. We will be looking deep into the nature and the beautiful contemplations of yin and yang, of feminine and masculine, of the above and below, the within and without. So why join this 19-month journey is a wonderful question, but even below that question is why astrology? I mean, isn't this just some ridiculous pseudoscience? That's what I thought for most of the years of my life, until I took a scientific approach to this ancient art that is certainly a science and much more. Now, if you are turning a multiple of 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, etc. between the dates of August 15th, 2015 and April 1st, 2017, you are entering a Venus synodic return cycle. In fact, you already have. And these come around every 8 years. So you most likely will be playing along with this, whether you choose to join us on this journey or not. But this isn't only for those who are in the Venus synodic return cycle. My practice teaches that we are all of the signs, and therefore we are all of the cycles. So we will look into what Venus means on your birth chart, what the Venus overtone is, and how this dance of Venus, Sun, and Earth is evolving over time, what that has to say about the archetypal ascent of the global goddess, which is some of the work that I'm adding to this beautiful investigation, how the masculine can support that as we conduct the sacred marriage to bring the yin and the yang together in harmony to give birth to the child, the androgyne, the true miracle of the one great work. So this is about that and so much more. And we'll have fun with it. After these introductory videos, it will be more of a storytelling approach from many perspectives. We'll have original music from Maria and from others, original art from all sorts of wonderful people, and incredible guests, not only astrologers, but all sorts of seeker and keepers of the various ways of wisdom, and there are so many. So one thing we touched upon very briefly in there, in the why astrology, is this idea of fate versus free will. In fact, this cycle, I feel, is so much about that because Leo is really the burning fires of the cauldron, the roaring flames of free will. So part of this journey we take together will be to reclaim that. And this is why this word sovereignty, I feel, applies especially at this time, and why the goddess Venus will be leading us through a journey to cleanse anything that would keep us from manifesting our creative gifts without hesitation, and truly reclaiming that free will, that sovereignty. For we find free will when we free our will. So what about fate versus free will? Well, I like to say that's your birth chart. This is the song. Here's a chart you can look at. Okay, this was that Venus interior conjunction yesterday at August 15th, 2015, 12:21 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when Earth, Venus, and Sun all aligned as they do only every 584 days or 19 months. Now, I know these things look crazy, and we will certainly venture into demystifying these charts in the What video. And as we move forward in this 19-month journey, this is simply a map of the planets as they align to Earth at that specific time. And it's what I call the song. So the idea is that Earth, Gaia, has her resonance, has her ohm. And this has been measured. It's subsonic, but it's a F-sharp chord, we're told. And I feel then that all of the planets have a voice or have an instrument, and perhaps the signs are melodies. And if so, then these images of the planetary alignments, in a sense, are a snapshot of the heavenly harmonies or the celestial symphony at a time that are singing forward to us the jam of that moment, the soundtrack that its intention is here to dance to. So I feel that the song then is the fate of the thing. As astrologers, we can't ignore this idea of fate because it shows itself to us again and again as we observe these sacred timelines that unfold with the planetary movements. But free will, right? Because you can dance to a song any way you choose. You can even choose not to dance at all. Kind of boring, but a valid option, I feel. So in fate versus free will, and in Earth in the heavens, I think I'd like to end this Why video with a couple of readings. The first comes to us from this strange text, The Light of Egypt, handed down by author Thomas Burgoyne. And while it's not necessarily the foundation of my study, I find a lot of symbolism here on the cover to be important to our quest together. We see the sun and the moon, the 7 stars in the middle, most likely referencing the 7 moving stars or planets, the traditional planets of Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. We see this Star of David or star tetrahedron, Merkabah, which says so much about the chalice and the blade, the yin and the yang of feminine and masculine interdependence and participation. We see the Ouroboros snake wrapped around the circle here. This is an image of the Milky Way, our galaxy that embraces us in the heavens. And we see in the corners the bull and the lion and the eagle and the angel. These are aspects of the fixed signs, as called by astrologers, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So of course one of these is very important to our quest, this entrance of the divine feminine's initiation and investigation into and of the Leo mysteries. So reading from this book, astrology is a combination of 2 sciences, astronomy and correspondences. These 2 are related to each other as hand in glove. The former deals with suns, moons, planets, and stars and strictly confines its researches to a knowledge of their size, distance, and motion, while the latter deals with the spiritual and physical influences of the same bodies, first upon each other, then upon the earth, and lastly upon the organism of human. Astronomy is the external lifeless glove. Correspondence is the living hand within. So I've heard this before, that astronomy is the glove and astrology is the living hand. I like to say mythology then is the blood that pumps through that hand's veins, that we, living our lives in these starry stories, are the vows of the marriage of heaven and earth, astronomy and astrology. Though this reading suggests that astrology is actually both astronomy and correspondences, the heavens and the earth. And so we will journey deep into those mysteries and investigations during the course of this, and we will really participate with mythology using the Sumerian stories of Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, as a guide for the Sumerians. Brought these stories forth as a transmission of this Venus synodic cycle, as I look forward to showing you. So one more reading about the why, and this comes from the Hermetica. This a translation by Timothy Freak and Peter Gandy, a pretty modern translation. But the Hermetica is legendary text said to be given to us by Hermes himself, Hermes Trismegistus, who the Greeks related to Thoth, which they called the god that those they called the Egyptians, who really lived in the land, they called Kemet. In Kem, they called Thoth Dahuti. So Dahuti and Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus. Many have suggested this is not the other Greek Hermes, who is the Roman Mercury, or the planet Mercury. But as Mercury is one of my great teachers, I would suggest that these are his words indeed. So I read to you from a tractise in this Hermetica called The Universal and the Particular. The human body is an earthly temple constructed by the power of the zodiac, which makes myriad forms from simple archetypes. There are 12 signs of the zodiac, and the forms they produce fall into 12 divisions. They are, however, inseparably united in their action. Nature makes the human body so that its constitution resonates with the patterns of the stars in such a way that they mutually affect one another. That they mutually affect one another. And this is a star teaching us this, because planet means moving star, so Mercury is a star, and in the words of Mercury, we are being told that we have as much effect on Mercury as Mercury does on us. Of course we do. Everything in this earth game is relationship. So I love to challenge people with this. Mercury tends to represent consciousness, or nous, in your birth chart. But what do you represent on Mercury's birth chart? And what do you represent on Venus's birth chart? What does she represent on yours? And how can we be conscious and cooperative in our cultivation of this relationship, in our conversation with the planets? This is not just we are at the fates as decreed by the gravitational or electromagnetic forces of these bodies of our solar system. No, this is a relationship not only to that planet, but to that essence as a reflection of our inner essence. As above, so below. As within, so without. We are the vows in the marriage of heaven and earth. May it be so. So I hope that you will join us for this 19-month quest. If you would like to, you can follow along by subscribing to this YouTube channel, or better yet, by joining the public Facebook group, The Sovereign Scepter of the Lioness, Venus Synodic Cycle 2015 to 2017. Because I'll be posting videos there, but also audios and some writings, and I welcome you to share your own experience during this cycle. So I'll continue these videos with the what What is a Venus synodic cycle? What is Venus in general? How can we participate with her energies? How can we call her forth in as a teacher for us at these times? To investigate the Leo mysteries and reclaim that fire of self-love and will. We'll talk much more about that in the Who video. And for the When video, to really look further into this timeline as suggested by shamanic astrology and the mystery school. And that being said, I really encourage you to check out the writings of Daniel Gemario and Kaylin Castell around these synodic cycles, around the sacred marriage practice. Kaylin Castell and Tammy Brunk have a Facebook group, a Venus group, that you can learn about on Tammy Brunk's writings and invitations. That is a paid group, but I highly encourage it. The way that they are working with the cycle and these mysteries is a beautiful thing. I was a member of the group for the last synodic cycle and will be for the one moving forward. Gary Caton, who is a great friend and teacher of mine, who will be a guest here at some point, I should hope, approaches this cycle in a bit of a different way, a little bit of a different schedule, and you can find Gary at the Hermetic Astrology podcast and dreamastrologer.com. And I'm not going to say one format is correct and one is not. We should investigate all of these things and resonate with what is our truth. But in this 19-month journey that we take together, led through this sovereign scepter of the lioness, I will be using the shamanic astrology timeline. I will also be looking into Gary Caton's heroic journey, or heroic journey of the heroine, in this case, timeline, and into the timeline as put forth by Adam Gainsbourg in his book, The Light of Venus, as well, because I have chosen to honor the Gemini principle for my sharings, even though I'm a Scorpio, by sun sign at least, but a Gemini moon and a Gemini rising. And sometimes Gemini will look into the many things. My mantra is these many branches I'm called to climb all emanate from the same trunk. So thank you so much for joining. I very much look forward to creating and sharing and communicating for these 19 months of my Venus synodic return and the journey of the divine feminine and her reclamation of the true Leo mysteries as sovereign queen. That's all for now on the why. To you, to Venus. This is your friendly astronaut, Gemini Brett, signing off. I will see you in space.